everybody, it's Michelle, and I've got a really fun project for you guys today, as well as a fun product to show you guys. I gave you guys a teaser just a little while back on Facebook about a new project I was going to be working on in my affiliate partnership with Beadaholique. I love Beadaholique for jewelry making supplies, and I've shopped with them several times, and I was so excited to obtain this partnership with them. And I'm going to be doing a project with you guys today with a product that I got from them, the Macrame Board. This is by Beadsmith, and you can get it at Beadaholique. I'll leave a link for you below for this, as well as some of the other things I'm going to be using today. I've got some of the S-Lon or S-Lon. It may be listed both ways on the website, in the micro macrame cording, as well as some in the number 18 size cording. The micro macrame, let me get some of that out and show you. It's super fine. It's almost like a thread, and I'll be using that a little later on in some other projects for bead weaving and things like that I'm so excited to get started on. And then we have the number 18 cord, which is a little bigger, and it's a little easier to work with for actual macrame. And the project that I'm going to be doing in macrame, like I told you guys in my teaser on Facebook, it's a project that we probably all did in about the 5th grade. If you're anywhere near my age group, which is your mid-40s, we made friendship bracelets at school, and we had to clip it to a clipboard with our school supplies and everything. And this macrame board makes it so much easier. So when I saw this macrame board, I knew that was exactly what I wanted to get for my first project with Beadaholique. And I really loved making those friendship bracelets, and I said, I am going to bring back friendship bracelets. But apparently someone beat me to it, because I have recently seen that friendship bracelet designs and patterns was trending on Pinterest. But still, I'm right in time for the game. So I think we'll leave the red out of the pattern we're going to do today. I think we'll use the 4 colors here. And I've got a navy, a light sagey sort of green, a peachy cream color, and a teal color. And I will leave the specific color names and product numbers for these in the description below, along with all of the other product links. But what I love about this board, let me set my cording aside here and show you guys a little bit about the board. First of all, I love that it's gridded for measurements every 1/2 inch. It's 12 inches by 16 inches in length, 1/2 inch border all the way around a measurement grid that measures 10 by 14. And along those 1/2 inch marks, you have a slit. See if I can open that and show you guys. Every 1/2 inch. So you can put your cord in between there. You can tie them all together and do your knotting. Slip it in there to hold it steady while you work. And then as you work, if you need to hold your cords off to the side or down at the bottom, you can keep all of your cords organized, and it's so much better. I wish I'd had one of these in the 5th grade when I was making friendship bracelets at school all day. This is so much fun, and it makes it so easy. And when we were in school, my friends and I always used either embroidery floss or yarn or something like that. And if you want to do that, you certainly can. But what I find with embroidery floss in particular is that it's in usually 6 different strands that are made to separate. Because for embroidery, you can separate those and embroider with one of the 6 threads for finer embroidery, or all 6 for a bolder embroidered pattern, or anywhere in between. So they are made to separate, which causes them to separate very badly on you when you're trying to work with them, especially all the knotting and things that you will do in macrame. So I prefer the cording here. It is woven just like a little rope. It's very fine. I don't know if you can see the detail in that, but I'll try to get you guys some close-up shots so you can see. And it does not unravel on you. So I do prefer this now that I have found it, but you can certainly use embroidery floss or yarn or whatever you want to use. And I don't know about you, but when I was doing friendship bracelets when I was in grade school, I didn't realize that I was doing macrame. I just thought I was doing friendship bracelets, and I didn't really realize that macrame is simply the art of tying and knotting in patterns. So I was so glad to rediscover this. So the width of my entire board is 12 inches, so I can easily measure. 4 times across for that is going to give me about 4 feet. And I want each strand to be about 4 feet in length. And I'm going to get 3 strands of each color. All 4 feet in length. And I'll go ahead and get those cut, and then I'll be back to show you guys how to start the pattern for your friendship bracelet. Okay, so I have all of my strands cut, and I'm just bringing all of the ends together now so that I can get these tied together at one end and start working on our friendship bracelet. And I'm going to kind of try to bundle these together in the order that I want my stripes to go. But since we do have our macrame board, we don't necessarily have to separate them all that well. We'll be able to separate them into our grid, which is so helpful. I can't wait for you guys to see how easy it is when you're using this board. And if you guys enjoy macrame, or even really bead weaving, some of the bead weaving patterns can be done with the macrame board, and we'll explore a lot more as we go along, and I'll show you some more things later on. Okay, so I've got them all bundled together, and I'm going to come down about 8 inches or so. And see, I can find that on my board really quickly because it's just so easy with that gridded measurement out on there. So I kind of want to do my stripes in this pattern. We're just going to do the diagonal striped pattern, the simplest, easiest one to start off with. And if you guys are interested and you want to see more macrame videos, I'll do some more patterns later on that are a little more complex. So you guys let me know what you want to see. Okay, so here's how this thing works. We're going to put this in our center slot, and that knot behind it there is going to help hold it in that slot for us. Actually, let's see what I want to do. I'm going to have to knot from there. So I'm going to come up a few inches and make another knot. That way we can use it to hold our work and use the other one as the beginning of our pattern. Okay, I'm going to move my cording out of the way so we can work with our macrame board. So this is my pattern. I want to do navy, then mint, then cream, then teal. So I'm going to separate all of my navy cords and get them over on the left. And I'm going to separate these into the slots. And you can see you could accommodate more strands than this if you wanted to. But we're just going to use a few of these slots today. And I'm starting in my one here at the 2-inch mark. And I've just got my cord in between those slots, and that organizes my navy as my first color, all in order. And now the mint kind of green, and I'm going to put all of those in the next slots. And instead of trying to keep these organized as you go, it's going to keep it organized for you. And we'll do a little bit of manipulating where we will work the cords over as we work along, and then start at the other end, and you guys will see that as we go. Okay, so there's my cream color in the next 3 slots. And now for my teal in the next 3 slots. And if they're a little jumbled up here above where we start our work, that'll work itself out in the end. So now you can see we've got all of the rest of our length here hanging down, and ever so often I like to kind of comb through with my fingers there to keep it from getting tangled up on me. Okay, so we're going to work left to right, and this is just for this basic pattern. You can work right to left if you want to do that if you're left-handed, but really macrame is going to include both when we get into some of the more complicated patterns a little later on. Even as simple as a chevron pattern, you're going to have to do left-handed and right-handed knots, so to be a little bit ambidextrous with that is going to be handy for you. So we're starting here, and we've just separated as many strands as we have. If you have more strands and you want to do a wider pattern, you can use it all the way across your board. And if you want to, and you have even more than that, you can turn your board sideways and use it that way for more width right there. But in the pattern we've got here, we go from the 2-inch mark to the 7.5. And the way that we do that, each time we work one cord across, we want to be from the 2 to the 7.5 all over again. So the one that's in our 2, we're going to take that out, and that's going to be our working strand. And the working strand is the one we're going to tie the knots with, and we're going to tie a knot all the way across, and then we'll be done with it, and we'll start on the next one and work left to right with it. So right now for our working strand, what you want to do is hold it in a position to where it makes a 4 with this cord here. And I like to kind of lift up this cord a little bit, create my 4 like that, and then I can just loop that through and make my knot. And every time we do this, we're going to do 2 knots before we move on to the next one. So here's what I like to do. When I have done my 2 knots on this cord, I'm going to move it one position to the left. Then I have a gap there, and I know which string that I'm working on at the time. So if I have to leave my work to do something in the meantime, then I'll know where I'm at. So next string, I'm going to make my 4, and in this case the working strand comes across over top of this string, and then we're going to go under, pull that through, and then we're going to do 1 knot and 2 knots. And when we're finished with that cord, move it over one position to the left. Two knots around each string until we've worked our way across and made 2 knots on every string across the width. And if you don't do 2 knots on each cord, you're going to get a twist. So your work will lay flat if you do the 2. So there's 1 and 2. And you can work out your tension any way you want to do it. But so that I know I'm getting even tension every time, I like to kind of snap it up there. And I'm not doing it hard, it's just a little bit of a snap to whip it into position. And that way I know it's kind of a steady pressure that I'm using every time, and I get the same tension. My knots are going to be the same. So again, 1 and 2. Move that over one position to the left. Next string, 1 and 2. And move it over 1. Another thing that's important to point out is you want to hold tension on this one, and you want to do your knotting and your pulling with the working strand. So once we get that knotted around there, you can see I've got tension on this one, and I'm knotting the working strand around it. If you hold tension the other way around, you're not going to have a navy knot going around a cream colored cord. If you can see there, you have a cream colored knot around your navy cord. So your knots are what forms your color stripes. That's the one you want to be looping around the other. So be sure that in your strands here you're holding tension and you're knotting and wrapping with the working strand. Move it over one position, and see now if I get called away, this is loose, I know it's my working strand. And if I forget where I was, I'm starting next after the gap here. So that helps me to keep up with my place without having to count or try to come up here and see where my knots are. I can just keep up with where I am by where I've moved my cords to. And that's 2 knots on that one, so we'll move it over. And we're almost to the end of the line. Okay, and that's the last one, so we move him over. And now that we've worked across everything with this one, it's no longer our working strand. We're going to put it in the position on the very right. So we moved everything over, and we're again starting with the 2 over to the 7.5, and that keeps everything straight. So every time I work one cord all the way across, I like to comb my fingers through the strands and make sure that nothing's getting tangled. And then we can start with our next one, which will become our new working strand. So we pull that one loose and just start 2 knots on each cord all the way across. If you want to, you can kind of make sure that your stripe is snug and everything's pushed up there. It's going to take a few stripes before we really start to see the pattern, but it'll really bring itself into shape. And we're just going straight across, but it forms that diagonal naturally. And again, move it one to the left when you're done. Now we're on this one. And again, for those knots, just to make sure that you get those right, I'm going to lift this one up and take my working strand across in the shape of a 4 over top of it. And then I'm going to bring it through from underneath and back out the top. Again, holding tension on this one and pulling the knot up with my working strand. Twice on every cord across. And once you get comfortable with it and you get the hang of it, you won't really need to make the 4 anymore. I just kind of hold that with my fingertips and pull the corner of that 4 with my thumb. You can do it up high, down here, however you want to do it. Whichever is easiest for you to get your knots even with the tension, however you want to do it. 2 knots, move it to the left, and then start on the next string. Two knots, move it to the left. Two knots, move it to the left. And you can see that I don't really make the 4 every time. Like I said, you'll get comfortable with it and you'll remember which is over and which is under. And you won't have to do that every time. So we're all the way across. This one that is no longer our working strand goes in the slot to the right. And we've got 2 through 7.5 again, and we're ready to start at the left. If you want to, take this opportunity to even out the tension on all of your cords there so that everything is nice and straight. Comb out your strands, and with 4 feet of length on each one of these, that should give you plenty of extra to work with. Plenty of length to make any size bracelet that you need. And you're going to have some excess that you cut away, but I still suggest that you use the 4 foot length on these strands. That way you've got the length to work with. You've got enough to reach your slots and keep your cords organized, and you've got enough to do everything that you need. And after you spend a lot of time on doing all this knotting, it's better to have too much than too little. And 4 foot I found gives plenty of extra length, but I did do one time with 3 and I came up short. So it's going to be worth that extra. Okay, so this is our 3rd navy cord. And then we'll get to start on a different color stripe, and you might be able to see it take shape a little better when you can start to see those stripes show up. 1, 2 knots around each cord. And you don't have to snap those into position if you don't want to. That's just my way of knowing in my mind that I'm doing the same tension every time. And my knots come out more even that way. I gotta say, the first couple of these that I did came out kind of wonky. It just comes with practice, and you may do a bracelet or 2 that's not exactly how you want it to be, but you'll find that comfort zone the more you work with it and the more you adjust your tension, and you'll kind of get in a rhythm, and that will help you get steady tension every time. And you see how I told you guys to make sure that your working strand is the one that goes around the other, so that the other one is pulled straight with tension on it, and this one is loosely around, because that's the one that makes the knot, and the knot is what makes the strap. So you guys can see that is clearly a navy stripe that we've got going on there. And now we are done with that one, and he goes in the 7.5 position, and we are ready to start again from the left side and work our way across. And now we've made it to the mint color, so we get to see a new color stripe form. Move that over one. Make your 4. Pull it through. Hold tension on this and knot with your working strand. Don't you guys wish you'd had one of these macrame boards when you were making friendship bracelets in school? All of these little slots all the way around are so handy. We don't have to try to figure out which one comes next. They're not laying loosely, clipped only at the top on a clipboard like we would have done back in the day. And you can see a little better there how it's starting to form your diagonal stripes. So I'm just going to continue on in the same manner until I get a few stripes to where you guys can see a little more of how it starts to take shape, and then I'll come back and check in with you guys again at that point when I get a few stripes. Okay, so we've gotten a little further. As you can see, our pattern is starting to repeat itself. We did the navy, mint, cream, teal, and we've started over again with another navy stripe, and we're about ready to start on another of the mint. I'm going to zoom in for you guys to show you close up. So there you can see how all of our little knots are lining up into our stripes. I think it's so pretty. I just love these. And you can see also, judging by our grid here, that it fits right into our 1/2 inch marks there on our board. So 12 strands of the number 18 cord will give you about a 1/2 inch wide bracelet, just slightly less than a 1/2 inch. If we bring it right to the line, you could see you might have room for one more strand, but that's where we are in our pattern. I just thought I would check in and show you guys where it is at this point. And I also wanted to point out to you guys that although I really like the grid marked off here in measurements, some people may find that visually distracting when they're doing their work. And if you only want to see just your work and the grid line is distracting to you, just flip it over. It's solid on the back, nothing to distract. And you could still have sort of a basic idea that one width of the board is 12 inches, one length of the board is 16 inches, and you know that between every notch is a 1/2 inch. So you still got a little bit of visual representation there without the distraction of the grid. I prefer the grid, but it is double-sided, so you can do it either way you want. So again, I have adjusted my tension here and combed out the strands that are left. I'm going to start again with the strand on my left. That becomes my working strand. I'm going to create my 4 over top of the next strand loop through from underneath and out the top. 1 knot, 2 knots, and move that cord over 1 position to the left. And I'm just going to continue in this manner until my bracelet is to the length that I want it to be. And once we get there, I will check in with you guys again and show you how to finish off your friendship bracelet. Okay, and we are almost done with our bracelet. I'm going to finish my way across with one last strand of my navy here. And I'm going to let you guys watch this last row just for repetition's sake. That's the best way to remember. So you can see we go and make a 4. Let me scoot that up. I'm going to take my working strand and make a 4 over top of my other one, if you can see the way that that string forms. And then we're going to go underneath and out the top, holding tension on this one, and work our knot up to the top of our work and kind of snap that knot. At least that's what I do to keep even tension. And I think this stripe is going to finish off the length that we need. And I'll show you guys how to finish this off. I decided to do a sliding knot closure so that there's no hardware. It's just knotted like the rest of the work, but you can slide it open and closed. And when you slide it open, it's going to be a little bit larger to help slip it over your hand. And then you can cinch it up tighter once you get it on your wrist. And another thing that I forgot to mention to you guys, but you can see here that I have done in my work, is to pin my work down with just some straight pins here. And that helps keep it in a straight line for me. And that's another wonderful feature of this foam macrame board, is it's not going to damage that, and you can pin to it easily. And a lot of times you may be doing larger work than just a bracelet, and it'll really come in handy then. And these macrame boards are not new. I think they've been out for a couple of years now at least. But I have been wanting one ever since the first time I saw it. And I'm so glad to have it. It's just as handy as I thought it would be. I just love it. And since I have this, I do intend to do much more macrame and even some bead weaving projects. Like I said, you can use this sort of in place of a loom if you need to sometimes. Okay, so that completes our final stripe. And I did do one stripe more of the navy. That was the very first color in our pattern. I went navy, mint, cream, teal. Navy, mint, cream, teal. So just the pattern like that would have ended on teal, but I thought it was a little more visually pleasing to have the navy on both ends, so I went ahead and did another stripe. And you can see with that one more stripe of the navy how that's just about used up the extent of what we have on the length of our cords there to be able to reach the bottom and utilize our slots in our macrame board. But we do have quite a bit more length in the others since we didn't do an additional stripe on those like we did with the navy. But I'm happy with it right here, so I'm going to take my pins out and take my work loose from the board. And I'm going to wrap it around my wrist to see. And you can see it doesn't quite go all the way around, and that's what I want because I want room for that sliding knot to be able to slide. So I'm going to go ahead and take all of these off of the board and tie everything into a knot at the end of my work. And I just love these S-Lon cords. They are so sturdy, and like I said, they're woven almost like little tiny ropes, and they did not fray or unravel even in the least little bit. I just love that. And I did make one of these beforehand, practicing a little bit with some of the embroidery floss, and it completely unraveled. So I'm just going to work that a little bit and see, make sure that it lays straight and that nothing's going to curve on me. Okay, so we've got about 6 inches. As a matter of fact, I want to redo my knot. I want to make that a little tighter down so that I've got right at 6 inches from knot to knot. Okay, and that's got us right at about 6 inches overall, and my wrist, snug measurement around my wrist is about 6 3/4 or so. I'm going to go ahead and take out my end knot here that I had on there just to hold it onto my board. And I'm going to wrap that around my wrist and see what kind of placement we've got there. And then I'm going to take one end of the strings and I'm going to use all of those to tie a knot around the other bundle of strings. And we've got about 2 inches there from this knot to the other knot. This is working from this strand and then tying it again around the others. And we've got about 2 inches in between there. So the next thing I'm going to do is kind of glue my knot. So I'm going to loosen that back up just a little bit and get some of my Loctite glue. And I want to make sure to get it into the knot only on the strings of the knot, not on the strings of the straight strand that the knot is going around. And then tighten that up. And there we go. So now I've got that strand to judge by, and I can take the other one and tie those into a knot around this bundle. And I've already got that 2-inch spacing figured out, so I'm going to keep that one in place and tie this one so that it's right up next to the one on the other end of this one. And again, before I tighten it up, I'm going to work in a little bit of Loctite glue. You can also use the GS Hypo Cement. It's very good for jewelry making. again, make sure that you're getting that only on the knot and not on the other strands. Okay, so there we have that, and I'm just going to cut that loose on both ends. And that glue does dry pretty fast, but make sure that you give it a little bit of dry time before you start pulling on it, so you can see that pulls there. I'm trying to be very gentle for the video's sake because I didn't allow that time to dry. And then I can slip that over my wrist and be able to slide those knots back apart to tighten it up onto my wrist. And there is your diagonal stripe friendship bracelet. I think it is so much fun. I just really loved getting back into an old craft that I used to do so long ago with a new tool that makes it so much easier. So I will leave the links for the products that I used, including this wonderful macrame board and the S-Lon cords, and I just love those. And I'm going to be getting more colors of these. I just love this S-Lon cord. Like I said before, it's super, super sturdy, and I really love it. And I would like to do even more projects with it. And if you guys want to see more macrame and other things with the macrame board, leave me a comment below and let me know. So be sure to check those links below and go over to Beadaholique's website and get one of these macrame boards for yourself. They also have a smaller travel size board if you want one of those. It's about half the size like this. So I'll leave both options for you in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Give me a like over on my Facebook page. And be sure to join our Facebook group, Crafty Minds. Also follow me on Pinterest and Instagram, and don't forget to visit my blog. I'll have the links to everything in the description below, so be sure and check them out. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.